It ain't too late at...
No. Good morning. Welcome to Indy Boomer TV. Mary Pat McKee. I'm sitting here this morning with Jane Malkoff with Malkoff and Hughes, which she has some very exciting news to tell us. But before we get to that, we're going to talk a little bit about Indy Boomer Magazine. That is the September issue of Indy Boomer with Mr. Dr. David Wolf on there. Mr. Dr. David.
Mr. Dr. David.
Anyway, we do have the November issue. Should be here next week. And it will be in all the Kroger and Marsh, I should say most Kroger and Marsh stores in Marion and the surrounding counties. You can pick a copy up, and that will be Mr. Forrest Lucas of Lucas Oil Stadium. Very interesting story. Very humble man, very nice man. So anyway, Jane is a contributor in the magazine. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do one more thing. We want to thank Jim Wofford, Logan Street Signs and Banners, and the Trophy Shop and Wofford Theater and this beautiful theater in which we are sitting in today for allowing us to have the show. We really are very appreciative of that for the Indy Boomer show. So back to us, Jane.
Okay.
Back to what's really important. Teasing. Jane has been Malkoff and Hughes. How many years have you had your business?
Well, I've been doing this business for almost 12 years, but when I formed a partnership with Sharon Hughes 2 years ago, we formed Malkoff and Hughes.
Right.
And we've been running a couple of companies. We've been running the care consulting company, Malkoff and Hughes, and also a caregiving company called Clarity Personal Care Services.
Okay.
And we've also orchestrated a large list of who the key providers of services are in Marion County and surrounding counties when it comes to elder services. So it's more of a non-biased, non-kickback approach to what is what's going on out there and what are the consumers saying about.
Right.
So anywhere from nursing homes to physicians to hospitals to rehab facilities to even where you're going for your testing, where you're going for caregiving.
So you're a resource for people.
We're a resource for all of those things. So we had these three businesses going on together, and we decided we needed to consolidate those names and that branding so people could better understand who we were.
Right.
So
and this is the big news.
So effective January 1st, what has been Malkoff and Hughes will be Clarity Care Advocates. And that will encompass all of the private care consulting that we do to help navigate people through. So.
Well, kind of give us an idea. I mean, because you do so many different things. Give us more of a summary on that.
We are at Clarity Care Advocates, which was Malkoff and Hughes. We are experienced nurses who make sure the healthcare system understands you. And we use 5 main principles to do that.
Okay.
So we ensure that you have the access to all the information and all the options that are available, because oftentimes you're given the options that maybe that person that's marketing the option to you is telling you about, or you get the option that the doctor feels might be a good option at the time, but maybe you didn't feel like it was fully explained, or that you had your other options explained to you. So then after we help you have this information, we help you to explore what does that mean. If you, of the options you have, what will that look like?
Right.
What will it cost? Did we really look under every stone?
Well, and I think too that a lot of times people that are in this situation, they don't know the questions to ask.
That's right.
So that's again another reason for the clarity.
And we make sure that those rights that they have to have that information those rights are promoted. So when you have a healthcare crisis, you have somewhere to reach out to, because when you're in a crisis, your vision and you get in this tunnel vision and you're just trying to deal with it, and you're not always know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll give an example. This past Friday, there was a 83-year-old woman that was in a motor vehicle accident. She had no dementia. She had no serious health issues. She was walking 3/4 mile a day.
Good.
And she went to the emergency room, and her daughter got my name from an elder law attorney and called me on Tuesday, and she said, my mother has been in observation instead of being admitted to the hospital.
What does that mean? What's the difference?
Nowadays, with some Medicare changing 3 years ago, it's a little bit harder to get admitted to the hospital. 3 years ago and on back, this lady would have automatically been admitted to the hospital. She had fractured ribs. She was in pain that was not controlled. but they opted to leave her in observation. So
Meaning they weren't treating her?
they were treating her.
Okay.
But she would never get a 3-night qualifying stay to get Medicare to pay then for a rehabilitation.
Oh my goodness, that's not right.
And so a couple of things that we were able to do is help her to have conversation with the physician to ask the right questions. So first of all, there's 2 separate types of rehab. People don't always know that. There's acute rehab and subacute rehab. And a lot of times people don't know that you can trigger an evaluation for acute rehab without a doctor's order. So I asked her to consider having the staff from the acute rehab center inside the hospital come down and see if her mother could be admitted to the acute rehab.
And so she could.
And so they didn't accept her because she wasn't well enough. So then we said to the doctor, well, if she's not well enough for acute rehab, why isn't she admitted to the hospital? And, she was then subsequently admitted and getting her pain under control. So this is day in and day out for us, and it's not so much because the hospital or the providers there are trying to pull a fast one. It's not so much because
they have regulations they have to deal with.
And it's not so much because somebody at Medicare said, let's make it difficult for 83-year-olds who have wrecks, It's just that when your mother's in pain, that can't be resolved, they ended up needing to provide some other types of help for that pain, and you're trying to help. And they're saying she can't go back home in that condition. She didn't get her 3-night stay to get rehab. There's nobody who can stop their life to move in and take care of her. And what do you do? And the family dynamics involved. So that's just an example
you're
of how...
also kind of at the mercy of what the hospital tells you, or you think you are.
You really are.
Yeah.
And because their agenda is one agenda, which has to do with, is it acute enough for you to be here? Is it serious enough for you to stay here?
Right.
And it's not my problem if it's not serious enough. It's just a different climate than it was, when I became a nurse.
Right.
6 months ago.
She's lying, and she's not just a nurse. She's a nurse practitioner.
I am a nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
So at Malkoff and Hughes, Clarity Care Advocates, we have all of that understanding so that we can help the families work through that. Make sure that your voice is heard. Make sure that the options that you would want for your loved one are considered, because maybe you said it in a way you thought was understood, but the language barrier between medical and non-medical.
I got a question for you, going back to this lady. Okay, say that lady was 50 years old.
Different story.
Totally different story, isn't it?
It would be a different story.
They would have taken that 50-year-old in straight away because it would have been through regular health insurance and not Medicaid. Is that correct?
The thing is there's no documented evidence that occurs that way. That you couldn't find anywhere somebody says, yes, she was 50, had broken ribs, can't take care of herself, can't go to rehab, but let's work her up a little more detail and see what's going on. Anecdotally, that's what I see happening. Yes, she would have had more workup. This lady had no blood work or anything come Tuesday.
Really? Mm-hmm. I just don't understand that.
Because
that 83-year-old could have been stronger than a 50-year-old.
Yeah. So, does the family know how to communicate her needs to the people? So, or did the nursing staff walk by and see her laying there comfortably because if she moved, she was in pain, and think that she was fine? Because she wasn't serious enough to require ER care or ICU or even to be admitted to the hospital. So people going into that situation to care for her assume she's at a level of wellness just to be in observation and not to be elsewhere. And if she wasn't moving, she didn't appear to be in pain. Did the doctor know that she was a healthy 83-year-old that walked 3/4 of a mile? See, I don't know if the families really felt comfortable sharing who that person is and what their goals are. So people have to be able to order up their expectation.
Right.
We expect the healthcare system to know things about us that they cannot possibly know unless we take it upon ourselves. And I tell people
that is true.
all the time, give as much attention to what you're ordering up for your healthcare as you do what you're ordering up on your dollar menu at the drive-thru.
Oh, well, I usually don't do the dollar menu. I go big time. I'm teasing. Jane, we got to take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be back in just a minute. Talk some more.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event, or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. The 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters, with a laid back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
There we are. Welcome back to the Indy Boomer Show. Mary Pat McKee here with Jane Malkoff, and we are just talking about all kinds of things as usual. But hey, no, we're talking about how their company is changing. They are going from Malkoff and Hughes to Clarity Advocates.
Clarity Care Advocates.
Clarity Care Advocates, not easy for me to say. But anyway, in talking about that, I want to, again, go back just for a moment. As I mentioned in the first segment, Jane writes for us very good information about caregivers, a lot of good information for boomers, especially who are taking care of their parents. In the November issue coming up, let me get it right, facing the holiday season as a family caregiver. How can Clarity Care Advocates help folks that are dealing with that?
Yeah. I think in the role of caregiving, when you are often an adult child helping out with a mother or father, or oftentimes it's a spouse, that's the usual scenario, and you have the holidays coming up, and you have all the added responsibilities, and you have the hope that you'll just find some time for yourself. It's important to remember, whether the holidays or not, but especially at the holidays, that the person that you're caring for is never any better off than you are. Meaning, if you're not taking care of yourself first, you're not taking good care of the person. So if you're sacrificing all of your time, all of your energy, and every ounce you have on other people, there comes a breaking point where you're not only possibly more likely to pass away before the person you're taking care of,
I've heard that.
But your stress levels are so high, so we see higher problems with stress-related illnesses and high blood pressure. And we recommend that this is the time you grant yourself a gift, which is a day off.
Yes.
One day a week.
Well, it's like any job. If you were to work it 7 days a week, you would become so burned out that you weren't efficient at your job anymore.
That's right.
So same kind of thing with a caregiver. You've got to take a break.
That's right.
And there's other people that can help.
And you
like
have to recognize that what I think is hard for people to understand is if what you are doing is truly in your heart about the quality of care you want your loved one to have.
Right.
You have to recognize that person number one is you, because when you are well, they will be better off.
Exactly.
And there's no other way. So it's about reaching out to anybody that you can think of that loves or cares that person, that could help provide you with that opportunity. Because if you have one family member who just takes 1 day a week,
right,
for you to be involved in other things. And people don't know where to start. And I tell folks, if you start with 2 or 3 hours, maybe every Saturday, and then just build upon it. So
Right.
eventually...
You mean taking the break.
Taking the break.
Taking the break,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
eventually you build that into one 24-hour period each week
Yes.
where you learn to trust others. So that could be calling Clarity Care advocates to help you find the people you can trust to help you with that.
Right.
Or holding your hand through the crisis that you're having that keep you from doing that break.
Right.
And being able to get back to having your life. Because I know with my own mother, she's in stage 5 Parkinson's, it was much more important to her that I remain her daughter than her primary caregiver. Her well-being depended on me, her being my mom, and feeling as if she was my mother.
Correct.
And so being able to allow other people to be involved in her care, even though I know so much about care
Right.
and quality care,
Sure.
being able to step back, even if people aren't doing it the way I would,
Yeah.
or doing it
And that's
perfectly.
where a lot of it comes into play, isn't
Yes,
it?
but it doesn't mean that they're hurting her.
Right.
Or that they're
They're just not doing it the way
ignoring
you
her.
would do it.
It may just not, her shirt may not be as straight as I would want it, and her nails may not look as nice as I would do them, and they
Right.
may not have had her sitting as long as I would have in the chair. But I know when I come back refreshed to see her, or my father, who does most of her attention, giving that time to yourself makes a difference. So you
Right.
so you have to be able to build a community around yourself, or reach out to services like ours to help you figure out how are you going to do that.
Well, I think that's interesting. I mean, it's. I'm sorry for your mother's to have the Parkinson's, but how difficult was it for you to step back and realize, knowing all that you know, and do that?
I'm fortunate in that I've done this work so long. I've watched so many caregivers have illnesses or death before the one they were looking out for.
Right.
That I was able to pay careful attention. I think the issues come, I'm a fierce advocate.
Yes.
So when I felt like I was saying something that was serious and needed to be heard and I wasn't heard, it was when it's your own parent and you're doing that sort of bulldog, sort of pit bull, yes,
Right.
this is what has to happen. It's a little more uncomfortable.
Yes.
It's always easier when it's not your own parents.
Oh no, I totally agree. That's why I wonder. Going back to Clarity Care Advocates, one of the things that I think, you're a resource in many, many ways in helping people figure out how to maneuver the whole scenario of possibly, whatever they have to do with their parents. Everybody's situation is different. The other thing I really like is, though, that you are a resource. It's not, about the caregiving and all of that medical aspect of it, but you also have some excellent resources with attorneys, with Medicaid people or Medicare people. I always get those two confused. I should know by now. But talk about that a little bit, can you?
Yes. What I found over the years when I started this business 20-some years ago of helping people is that a lot of what they had were resources, but not resources that were well-defined. Or you have, how many different corporations do we have that have nursing homes in town? How many different people do we have doing financial planning and estate planning? How many different attorneys do we have people can go to? How many different caregiving companies?
Yeah.
How many nurse care managers are there? There are so many people, and people don't know, is this a company that takes kickback for making a referral? Is this a company that really knows the quality? Do they know how to assess quality? Do they know how to assess the outcome?
Right.
So we
Can you
started
trust
gathering.
it?
That's right. So
Yeah.
we started gathering that data from our clients who were receiving services and from our own interactions. We are in and out of these buildings, in and out of homes that have the caregivers in them, in and out of having conversations with different attorneys and estate planners and financial planners.
Right.
So we're hearing the feedback and we're meeting people for ourselves, and we have a knack at understanding integrity and longevity in the community and feedback from people in the community who's received those services.
Right.
So we offer that advice and those tools to people who call us, and we offer a 30-minute free telephone conversation because sometimes all people need is just that information to
Right.
take the next step.
Well, and the other thing too, and we talked a little bit about this in the first segment, is you're not getting a kickback from anybody you refer. It's
no.
because they're people you trust.
Absolutely.
Because there are services out there that they're recommending you go to this retirement facility because that retirement facility is giving them money. It's not necessarily because they're good or bad.
It's hard for people to know what to do. That's why it's good to rely on our company. There's not one like it in town.
Right.
Because the difference is very lovely people could be managing the companies like you just mentioned.
Right.
Wonderful, intelligent people of integrity might own a care company.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean it translates down into the quality of the service.
The actual caregivers on the scene.
In the same way, you could meet an attorney that has a really wonderful personality, but what's the outcome of that work that they do? So over 20 plus years of being in this community, working with the needs of older adults, we have all of that information, and we don't worry about sharing it. We worry about getting people, as far as if somebody says, well, why did you tell them not to come to me? Well, this is why.
Right.
Why did you, thanks for sending them over here, because that was the perfect match for me and you knew what I needed. And being open and honest and transparent, we think will build everybody's standard up. So
I think what goes around comes around.
That's right.
Exactly right. As usual, time flies.
Yes, it does.
You'll be back, of course.
Yes.
In 2016, this year is flying by. Hey, real quick before we go, the show is on Hamilton County Radio Monday through Friday at 6:30 p.m. So if you would like, excuse me, I just was corrected. It is 5:30 on Hamilton County Radio, so you can hear this as well. Oh, Jane, give them a quick phone number for how to reach you.
Yes, you can dial my cell phone directly. It's 317-979-3700.
There you go. So give her a call. I have used Jane with my family, and it's been a great service as well. I do have to change the subject one more time. Boomer TV, Channel 8 on Sunday mornings at 10:30. Check it out. We've got some good stuff on there, and Patty Spittler's a great host. So we look forward to seeing you all here next week, and have a great week. Thank you. Thanks, Jane.
Thanks.